as we take a little journey from Good Friday, we had Good Friday, and that was a sad service. For some of us, it's hard to be sad, but because we already know the ending. But we mourned the death of Jesus, and as we got together, I talked about the Last Supper and the betrayal of the disciples, but we're all included in that. So I kind of we reflected on how have I betrayed Jesus. How have I felt betrayed? How have I felt abandoned? Because there's so much uncertainty in that whole scene. And the next day of Saturday of like, what just happened? I thought like, oh my goodness, I thought this was the Messiah. I thought we were taking over. I thought Rome was going down. But I think as a good father, every good father, my dad did it to me. He took my chin and said, child, pay attention. Because I had a short attention span. And he would take my little chin and he'd be like, look. And he would tell me things more than once. And if you're like me, I need to be told things way more than once. And that's what a good father does. Instruction, and goes like, gets down on your level and said, child, listen. And that's what he did. At the beginning, when he did the Last Supper, he broke the bread and said, this is my body. Had the cup, this is my blood. Remember me. And so I just wanted to start with that. And then after that Last Supper, they go, Jesus predicts his betrayal from Peter. He predicts his betrayal from Judas. They go into the Garden of Gethsemane, and Jesus went there to pray. Has anybody ever prayed and their eyes bled? Like, that's some serious prayer. I think there are some of us in this room that have had blood coming out of our eyes and our ears of playing. Please get me out of this situation. I don't like this little cell. Oh no, I did it again. I'm going to lose my license forever this time. Please help me. Jesus was doing the same thing. Please help me. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to the cross. What if Jay says no to me? Like what if I go and waste my time? Like there must have been that tension, because he's going to die for everybody. Everybody here is worth one Jesus, whether you accept it or not. And so they're in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he says, stay, pray, and watch. And 3 times they fell asleep. 3 times they fell asleep, on guard, on watch, on prayer duty. And then we come to today, and the stone was rolled away, and everybody high fives. There's an angel. The miracle has happened. Oh my goodness. It went down. We didn't see that coming. And everybody is amazed. And that's the Jesus that I've got to know, and is that I'm amazed. Are you amazed at Jesus? Are you amazed at his word? Are you amazed every time he takes your little chin and he says, look in my eyes. I got something to say. I'm not going to just say it once. I'm going to repeat it in love, not in you're bad or condemning, but in love. I just want you to hear this, child. And then the disciples are walking to Emmaus, and they're dismayed, and they're talking about all the stuff that had happened. And this person joined them. Like, hey guys, what are you talking about? Oh, we're talking about like the death, the cross, the unfair trial, the one of the guys betrayed him and 3 times, and then the rooster crowed. Like, you haven't heard of any of this? Oh no, I haven't. Tell me more. And as they were walking, this man describes all of the things and connected the Old Testament and the New Testament, and they were amazed. And he says, how foolish you are, and how slow you are to believe that all of the prophets have spoken what they have said. Did not the Messiah have to come and suffer these things and enter into his glory? And beginning with Moses and all of the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all scriptures concerning himself. They hadn't recognized who he was. But he went from the Old Testament and he just connected the dots with what was said and what happened and all the little things that happened that you couldn't just make up. As they approached the village to where they were going, Jesus continued on as if he were going further. But they urged him strongly, "Stay with us." That's an invitation for all of us. Lots of us meet Jesus. Lots of us have an encounter. But how many of us say, "Stay with me"? For it's nearly evening, the day is almost over. So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table, he took the bread and gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Their eyes were open and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. That just gave me goosebumps, because what he's saying is, children, look at me, the Last Supper. He broke the bread. And on the road to Emmaus, he explains and connects all the dots of what was told to happen and what did happen. And then he breaks bread again, and they're like, this was Jesus the whole time. And he's like, this is my body. I've done this for you. I've died and rose again so that you can have life. And I think that's really cool that he gets to my level and he wants to be invited in. And he doesn't force his way in. And at some point, he opens my eyes and I can recognize him for who he is and what he's done. And so this is my little revelation this morning as he turns our eyes, and we saw the 3 days, the 3 times they failed at prayer, the failures that you and I make, the 3 days he was in the grave to make up for our 3 times of failure. And so I want to go back to the Old Testament, and here's Moses with the Israelites, the children of God, and they're leaving slavery and they're going out into the wilderness, into the desert. And they left all the plagues and they went through the Red Sea. The sea was parted and they went into freedom. They left the tyranny of the Egyptians, the slavery, and now they're going into freedom. But they entered into a time of desert. And I just want to read this first story. When Moses led Israel from the Red Sea and went out into the desert of Shur for 3 days, I think that number is important. For 3 days, they traveled in the desert without finding water. Imagine us, some of us, 3 days without water. We're donuts. When they came to Marah, they could not drink its water because it was bitter. That's why this place is called Marah. It's called bitter. So they came, they're coming 3 days. Some of them are complaining a little bit more than others. You know who you are. And it's like, oh my goodness, we just came out of, like, we had water back there. We had food back there. And now they're kind of turning on themselves. Like, God brought us out here to die. He's just going to kill us out here. And he brought us here and now he's teasing us. There's water for us to live, and it's bitter. It's going to kill us. We cannot drink that water. I don't think they had water testers. I think they came up on the water and was like, don't drink the water. I don't think anybody had to be told not to. I think it had a smell. It was that weird color with algae. There was probably like this weird steam coming off of it, maybe some bubbles. Do not drink the water. It is awful. So the people grumbled against Moses, saying, what are we going to drink? Then Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. Here it can be translated as a branch or part of a tree. He threw it into the water, and the water became fit to drink. Fit to drink. It became spiritually fit. There the Lord issued a ruling and instructed for them to put them to the test. He said, so as I invite Jesus, there's a bit of a condition. If you listen carefully to the Lord your God and do what is right in his eyes, if you pay attention to his commands and keep all his decrees, I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord your God who heals you. And that's the invitation that we have today, is that many of us are walking around with bitter water in us. It comes in the form of fear and resentment and hate and anger and jealousy and rage, all of those things inside, and you have bitter water. And Jesus says, I am the living water. I don't have water. I am the living water. And our invitation is to invite him into my heart today to make my bitter water sweet so that it can be poured out, because I don't get to keep it if I don't give it away. And that's the invitation of the cross, is that this piece of wood in your heart is going to change your water from bitter to sweet. And so that's my invitation today, is that I want to invite you into, and you have your own wilderness story, you have your own slavery story, whatever Egypt looked like to you. You have a tyrant that is controlling you. As you come out of freedom into this weird land of like, well, now what? What are we going to do? You kind of turn on yourself and go, this isn't good enough. You turn on to God. This isn't the life that I wanted or expected. And we become our own tyrants. And then you get to this point of like, I am bitter inside. I have nothing good to offer humanity or myself. I'm just consuming. I'm taking. And so the invitation is to invite Jesus in. The branch that I believe that he threw in the water, Moses threw in the water, was a symbol of the cross as they walked in the desert for 3 days without water. 3 days the disciples were confused of like, I didn't see this ending like this. He actually died, but he rose again in 3 days. So I think that's the symbolism of that.